Hey, deserving listeners, Darcey and Stacey, season 4. Let's watch.
Dating and dating and dating just to get wine and dine or whatever it is. I want the real deal. I want a real relationship.
It's the first date, so I would just have fun. Take it slow. Because if there are red flags, you don't want to get hurt.
He's my age, he's successful, he's got kids, he's easy to talk to and open up to. You know, he's the same person. I feel like we're the same person, but in different bodies, so.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, wow. I expected this, but not this fast and not this severe. We're the same person. They have not even been on a date. They met. You could argue that that first get to know each other matchmaker thing was a date-ish. But to go this fast, this is what I've been talking about, the fairy taleizing and the desperation, because what I conceptualize to be her baseline is believing that no one will ever love her, she'll never find anyone, she's not good enough, or other people can't be trusted in general. So there's a compensation, a defense against that reality that she thinks is real. It's not. She is not a bad person. She does have worth, and other people can be trusted if you find the right people. And so there's seemingly some sort of defense against that, to look on the bright side, to be pathologically optimistic is a term that we might use, and to ignore any indication that it might not work out, or to just forge ahead so fast. You could argue there's a bit in the love bombing direction, at least the rushing direction for her. But to be truly love bombing, she would have to be coercing and intimidating with the love and the attention and the admiration, which I don't think is present. We'd have to ask the individuals that she dated before. I don't think they would report that. So she's saying, and then she says something that I don't think she said before, which is, we are the same person. You could argue maybe she's just saying, look, we're the same age, we're into the same things, and we're equals in a way that my previous partners and I were never this way. It was always like a huge gap of culture or experience or age or lifestyle, whereas this guy and I, we're like in the same ballpark. We're in the same life stage. We both have kids. We're both professionals. We're both striving for success and blah, blah, blah. And so maybe she's saying that, but on the other hand, maybe she's literally saying, we are the same person. So you often hear me talking about differentiation and undifferentiation, and there's a lot of experiences or manifestations of one's lack of differentiation, one of which, and I've talked about many others, but I don't know if I've talked about this one, is that the undifferentiated individual who's lower on that scale will not have the ability to differentiate between themselves and other people. They will blend the two. One way to look at it is that when children are born, it's natural for them to be in that state where they can't differentiate between themselves and the caretaker. So let's say the caretaker is a mother. The infant, the month-old, the 4-month-old infant, does not differentiate between themselves and the mother. Their bodies are the same, their experiences are the same. You know, it's hard for us to imagine what we felt like when we were 4 months old and how we saw the world. But through a lot of observation and theory over 100 plus years, the general consensus is that the child is completely fused, completely undifferentiated from the mother, which is a good thing. It's healthy to be that way. And also, the parent, if you've ever had an infant that depended on you, especially if you're the primary caretaker, you will fuse as well. That infant is an extension of you. It might have literally been an extension of you in your body at a certain point, but when the child cries, you can't get away from it. You never want to separate from the infant. When the infant is happy, you're happy. When the infant is uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable. There's no differentiation of feeling or of thought or lifestyle or body or anything. It's just, one thing, which, it probably lends itself to survival and was selected for in evolutionary terms. Hard to know, but stands to reason. And so throughout the life, as we mature and grow and develop, it's a process of individuating and differentiating slowly but surely, age appropriately, until you get to a comfort zone, a healthy medium where you're not completely separate, because that's pathological as well. You're right in the middle and flexible depending on the situation, where you can completely meld with someone when you're in love, or when you're taking care of someone, or you're asking for, you could be 45 years old and enter into an infantile dependence on someone, and someone's taking care of you, and maybe you're sick or whatever. You're someone just died in your family, and your partner is holding you and taking care of you. There's a fusion there, right? Your partner and you are one, in a sense. Not as much of a one as when you were 4 months old, but pretty undifferentiated. But you're flexible, right? And then there are times when you want to do things on your own. You want to think separately. You want to see yourself as an independent person who can do things on their own. So there's a flexibility there, but there's a happy medium between dependence and independence. And so for people who don't have enough differentiation in the family, there's too much triangulation, I would also add lack of attunement, which is a separate psychological area, theory of attachment. I incorporate those two systems, theory and early childhood development and attachment and psychodynamics. It's all kind of one in my head. So lack of attunement, lack of differentiation. Essentially, if you have parents who lack differentiation and families that lack differentiation, lots of triangulation, lots of conflict, lots of inability to individuate in the moment and to be flexible along these lines, then you will have children that will be fairly undifferentiated. Typically, there's one kid who tends to be the most undifferentiated. They call that the targeted child, or there's some other term for it. But we could maybe hypothesize that Darcey was that person. Stacey seems a little bit more able to function on her own, but we don't know about the brother. The older brother seemed to be also kind of parentified and a caretaker. There was some, I don't think I reacted to it, but they were talking about how the older brother would help them when they were young. We could maybe even hypothesize the older brother, who died tragically young, was a father figure in the father's absence. It almost seems like the mom, it was potentially absent, the way that she behaves on the show anyway. It's hard to know, but she doesn't seem to be super reactive or involved or leaning into parenting very, so we could imagine Darcey, Stacey, and the older brother left at home. The dad is always at work and or divorcing and being with other women. And the three kids are kind of left to their own devices. The older brother becomes parentified, and the two twins really depend on him. But of course, a brother who's just 3 years older than you can't be a sufficient parent, can't be completely attuned. You're not going to feel completely safe. You're really going to want your parents to take care of you. So there was that loss. Anyway, so when you emerge with a lack of differentiation in general, then you have a tendency to fuse with other people. You have a tendency not to understand who you are, and you can't rely on the self. And when there's a temptation, there's a desire to meld, which one could have at the beginning of a relationship, even at this stage, it's fine. But if you had enough differentiation growing up, and you had a baseline healthy enough differentiation, then you would be able to detect, well, I want to believe that this is going to work out. I want to meld with him. It feels like maybe this is a safe oasis in a vast sea of sand and abandonment and sadness and loneliness. It looks like that, but it could just be a mirage. I need to depend on myself. I need to depend on my sister. I need to think more straight. I need to be more rational about my perspective on this, because it doesn't make any sense that I would put all my eggs in this basket. I should wait years perhaps before I make that commitment, especially given the fact that we both have kids, so we'll see. Plus, I've dated before, and lots of people date and report that most of the time dating relationships don't work out in the end. That's just the way that things work out. What's the chance that this person just happens to be the perfect person for me? It's probably not likely, but give it a try. There's no way to know until you try. So there's no way to find out unless you give someone a chance. So that ability to differentiate, not only from other people, but your mind. You have a feeling, a desperation of wanting to meld with someone, but you have a rational mind that says, well, wait, like, relax. So we can go with this. We can fantasize. We can have those butterflies. We can have those hopes, but also understand that we shouldn't be putting all our eggs in that basket. So Darcey seems to be exhibiting that classic undifferentiated, fused thing. I knew it would happen. Or I suspected it would happen. I can never know, based on the way that she's been fusing with previous, moving way too fast and putting all of her eggs, not only just her hopes and dreams for companionship in one basket, like very, very quickly. We saw the same thing with Tom, the same thing with Georgie, same thing with Jesse. Very, very quickly, she's like, this is the one, this is going to work out. And you're just like, well, but especially with Georgie, you're just like, but then it did kind of work with Georgie. Anyway, not only putting all your eggs in that basket, but you have no self-esteem to fall back on to manage the situation, right? It's like, I am nothing without this working out. And so I will deny all indication of any kind of reason to put a brakes on this. And anyone who suggests that, like my sister, who's always micromanaging my life anyway, she's a party pooper and she's always doing that, and I will deny her. It becomes, you shut yourself off from even your own cautions. But the other thing that I'll say is that the way that Stacey frames it, the way that everyone frames it, including Darcey, including the people who helped Darcey, including the matchmaker, seemingly, the therapist she went to, seemingly, everyone frames it as there are two options. Either this is the one and he's perfect and he's your prince in shining armor and he will take care of you and he will be perfect and he will be constantly romantic. He will buy everything. He will shower you with gifts, just like the way your father did when he swooped into town. And everything will be perfect and it will just be this fairy tale, ridiculous story. Or there were red flags that he was toxic and abusive. Those are the only two options. Either it's the fairy tale or he's toxic and abusive. There's no other option. I would contend the most likely option that is not on the table ever is this didn't work out. Like, you're not compatible. There's just, your personalities are just a little, there's some issues there that make it so that it's hard to sustain a long-term relationship with this person. I would say that about Jesse. I'd say that about Tom. I'd say that about Georgie. A lot of the incompatibilities emerge from Darcey's inability to see how she is part of the problem and apologize, and to berate people for things that feel like transgressions but actually aren't, like having your own cash in your own sock in your own drawer. They brought that up for seasons. Over 2 seasons, they brought that stupid stuff up. Maybe longer, I don't know. And the fact that he couldn't get a job, even though he had a job, but Darcey forced him to move and was really pressuring him to let go of his rental house where he used to live, I think in Washington, D.C. He had to quit his job as a massage therapist, and took him a while to get work, apparently, which I think is common for, particularly during the pandemic, particularly for someone that is an immigrant. So anyway, I just wish they had there doesn't seem to be any guidance. Their friends, their family, it's either the fairy tale or he's a toxic abuser. It's just like, there's no other option.
Talk to and open up to, he's the same person. I feel like we're the same person, but in different bodies. So maybe if we merge tonight, maybe we could be like the most powerful couple ever.
Interesting. There's another element there of the most powerful couple. There's a lot of talk, especially this season, around being seen as a power couple, which I think is defined as a couple where both individuals are successful and famous and glamorous and lots of followers on Instagram. I think that's what people mean. So we could absolutely see Darcey striving for that. There's nothing wrong with having that as part of your enjoyment, right? You'd be like, he seems like a great guy. We're compatible. I'm attracted to him. He likes me. And we have this added benefit that we're both successful and we would look great on Instagram. There's nothing wrong with having that as a desire. But for Darcey, I wonder, and there seems to be more and more signs that that's all that she's focusing on, because she has such low self-esteem that, and at some point, I think early in life, maybe even in high school, she determined, if I could be that famous celebrity or something like that, because it can't be riches. Riches are a part of it. Being rich is a part of it. But I think it's largely based on public accolade. And at some point, she just locked in on that. And there's no other path. There's no other zone where I can be happy unless I arrive at that point. And I'm striving. I feel like I'm just on the cusp. I'm going to do everything I can. And so I think it's possible that there's been no room in her soul for a consideration of attachments and compatibility and conversation and getting to know each other and mutual support. It's only based on, are we a power couple? Which would make sense that's because that was, you could argue that's the whole reason as to why Darcey and Stacey and everyone else by extension was, I would argue, abusing Georgie, at the very least berating him, putting him down for not, because that was the whole thing last season, right? Was that Georgie didn't have a lot of money and he was trying, and maybe he wasn't, maybe he was being lazy, I don't know. But it was the sole focus that Darcey had was just like, you need to be making a lot of money. And I don't know if they're struggling money-wise. They seem to have everything that one needs in life, right? A house. I'm guessing they have enough food and certainly have enough clothes and disposable income to spend on various different procedures. So was it some sort of emergency, or is it that's the only reason? And again, there'd be nothing wrong if you're also focusing on attachment and relationship and companionship and mutual support, and you want him to work and you'd like to be a power couple. But it's possible that that's all Darcey is focusing. And earlier, when I first started watching Darcey, I wouldn't have thought that. I didn't see any signs of that, and I wouldn't usually think that about someone. And certainly, I wouldn't just focus on what I'm seeing on a reality TV show as being completely representative of someone's motivations. But, well, so full disclosure, I've heard things from people who know Darcey. I'm trying to avoid firsthand, who know her very well, and said some things in this direction. Things very much in this direction. Now, those people might not know either, but it was their observation. Of course, they would know because they spent lots of time with her, that was the sole reason. That was the sole motivation for dating, and even dating on the show. You could argue that maybe if it wasn't a show, she wouldn't be dating at all. She wouldn't know what to do with herself if she wasn't on a show. You know what I mean? Or if she wasn't able to get on stage. And there's a lot of people who are like this. A lot of people have these kinds of wounds about self-esteem, and will, at some early point in their life, will lock in on it. They believe they're worthless. They believe no one loves them. No one's going to be there. So usually they will experiment with various different behaviors, and they'll go on stage and they'll suddenly get at least a sliver of attention and love from the people that they're hoping to get it from. And then that locks it in. It's like, okay, this is my one zone where I can actually get love and attention. It will happen nowhere else. So I can only do this. But of course, if you sustain that into adulthood, you will alienate everyone around you, because no one wants to be with you, because you don't ask them questions. You don't have mutual support. You're just like, well, I'm going to get on stage and you're going to look at me. And how are you going to help me look good on stage? You have to stand next to me, and then everyone will look at me because you're next to me. And I want you to look good, but I also need you to be super successful. I need you to have the whole thing. And then everyone will love me. And then I will finally be able to relax. I will finally feel safe. And obviously, that's not the path to attachment security.
I'm really happy that Darcey's dating a different kind of guy. I just feel like she might be getting a little ahead of herself. Darcey has a tendency to move really fast when it comes to relationships. I just hope that if there's any red flags, that she can look out for them.
You hear that? It's just like either it's great or red flags. Instead of most likely, you're just not compatible. Or watch out for Darcey's relational traumas getting triggered and her sabotaging the relationship. Like, that's also more likely to happen. How come those aren't on the table? It's either perfect or red flags. And they mean red flags for abusiveness and scamming. Their narrative is Georgie was scamming her the entire time. That in fact, she has said all the men that she's dated were in it for the money. Were in it because she has a lot of money. Now, I don't know how much money she has. One. Two, Georgie, at least his lifestyle, you could kind of see that. Now, we don't know. We don't know what happened. But I would assume that if there were data to back up that claim, they would talk about it. Because remember last season, they were like sure that Georgie was scamming, and they kept bringing up the couple, data points that supported their claim, which was the money in the sock drawer. There was a couple other things in there too that were just as ridiculous. So I'm just going to take a guess and say that there's not a lot of data. It could be someone could just secretly want someone just for their money. But I don't know. It's just, it's such a destructive narrative and assumption that they have. And there doesn't seem to be anyone around them that is offering at least a question mark. I'm not saying they haven't been scammed. I'm not saying they're not going to be scammed. I'm just saying there are question marks there. And to be just locked in, because what happens to Darcey, and this is why I'm so worried about this, is that it's either perfect fairy tale or red flags. That's it, black or white. And if anything goes awry, if anything goes slightly wrong, like there's some tension, or he doesn't give you the super expensive ring, he gives you a cheaper ring, then it's red flags, he's scamming. There's just like, there's so many landmines that this relationship can step on, right? And then Darcey internalizes that, becomes extremely hurt and very angry, and will lock in. And then Darcey goes to her people, friends and Stacey and others, and everyone just agrees. And they'll even feed the fire and be like, oh, he's totally scamming. Oh my God, yeah, that's a scam. Oh, I can't believe he did that. And we're just right back where we started. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.